And welcome to Down the Alley. This is PMAC.
And Ted T.S. Barides.
And JP.
And I think, like last week, or maybe not, I don't remember, we're jumping right into an interview. Special guest, second time caller, I believe, long time listener. This guy likes to stir it up pretty much everywhere he's at, especially in the Discord, maybe on the app X, formerly called Twitter. Coaches all around the state, Blake, Gophers, youth, now an Edina resident. Surprisingly, I don't know if he fits that mold or not. Welcome to Down the Alley. We've got Coach Midboe. How are we doing this evening?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me. Glad to be back. It's been a couple of years now. Podcast has grown quite a bit since, so excited to be back on.
Yeah, we had five listeners back then. Now we have seven. I probably missed a couple of things that you're involved in. We'll definitely dive into those things, but yeah, how are things right now? What's going on in Midboe's life?
Things are good. Been staying busy. It's kind of the in between season right now, so we just finished up all the men's box summer stuff, running and playing on the Wheat Kings, competitive like post collegiate mostly. We got a couple young guys. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but that season's just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. We're about to get into our winter like beer league, and then kind of a little dead period too with some of the high school stuff. Light practice schedule for a change. So it's been nice to spend some more time with family and focus a little bit on the day job too. But excited to get back rolling into things in a couple weeks here.
Right on, right on. And since we last talked, your little guy is he's still kind of little, but not as little as he was. What's he up to? What level is he at these days? Where I see your guys' highlight videos and training videos and whatnot, all the time.
Yeah, kid's nasty. He's playing U8 right now, a little bit of U10 here and there. Always has a stick in his hand. When if he's at home, he's throwing it on the wall or he's watching some highlights on YouTube. Big shout out Mitchell Pelkey. Finally got him off some of the video game streamers into some lacrosse YouTube. So that's been fun to see. But yeah, kid's loving it. He's 7, so he's a second grader. Played in his first club tournament this summer, which was kind of fun to do. Kind of the third side, right? Playing it, coaching it, and then now getting to be a dad for it. So it's a ton of fun.
What is that like being a dad for a lacrosse game? Like you got to hold back your like inner player and coach side to like not get fired up and go through the roof. Like are you talking a little garbage to the other dads on the sideline or what's that like?
A little bit, yeah, and I mean, kid backs it up too. So I kind of got into it with the mom today. He had a game. After his fourth goal, we were flexing back and forth, and she's, "You're way too intense for youth lacrosse." And I was like, "Just because your kid's bad, dude. Like, I'm excited, man. He's practicing. He's earned it. Like, let's be excited about it." So
Absolutely. And if you got the walk, might as well talk the talk.
exactly.
One thing I do know about him is he has like a million PLL jerseys. Does he have a favorite team or does he just cheer for all the teams?
He cheers for all the teams, so he's never sad. Whichever team is winning is usually the squad he roots for. I think right now his favorite is Water Dogs. Hopefully the Great Lake Water Dogs soon. But big Michael Sowers guy. He liked the chaos for a while. He's a big Josh Byrne guy for a little bit there. But yeah, he picks favorites.
Is he like the guy like on Instagram that changes jerseys? He's got like three different ones on, and if the first one's not working, he rips that one off.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was kind of stupid. His youth tournament was same weekend as PLL, so we didn't get to go this year. But last year, he did wear 3 layers of jerseys and stripped him off based on which player he was asking for gear from. So that was pretty funny.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, first would love to just, kind of dive into the one of the 10 teams that you coach or have coached or maybe still coach or going to coach. I guess I don't know. That's why we do the interviews. Kind of starting at the quote unquote top, the college level. I know you've been coaching with the Gophers last couple of years, few years. I guess I don't know. You can fill us in, but what's that experience been like? And who are you coaching with? How's that been?
Yeah, a ton of fun. So we'll go top down. So Gophers have done the last 2.5 years. Awesome program. Pete Goson's doing a lot of great things there. They've got fantastic player leadership. A lot of those guys are now playing on Wheat Kings, so still stay very close to them. had to kind of step away a little bit with the day job and the 8 other teams. It got to be a bit too much. So I'm kind of just popping in and out this year. They got a good squad though. Definitely young team, a lot of transfers. Boys are looking good in the little bit I've seen. So excited about that. I think the MCLA level is really cool. I mean, those are guys like literally playing for the love of the game. The aspect of picking a school that you'd want to be at if you weren't playing lacrosse is very true at that level. So can respect that versus, somebody going to the middle of nowhere for a place just because they returned an email. And there's still a lot of talent.
Yeah, quickly on that, because it is that time of year where we're seeing people commit. People are not knuckles deep in the recruiting process. Obviously it's probably a different process and different school to school, but yeah, and maybe you don't know or you don't have all the details. But what have you seen that recruiting process be like specifically at the U of M? For the Minnesota listeners, the Minnesota players that listen, what does that look like for the U?
Yeah. So within the MCLA, right, it's going to range a ton between each school. Some will be very plugged into administration and even have some financial resources. At the U, it is a bit more of that like true club sport. The boys are super organized. The player leadership group, the alumni base, and the coaching staff, they're all super dialed in. But not a ton of sway with admissions. However, the flip side of that, it's nice to have that kind of coach on the inside, right? So Pete Gosen, his day job is as a school administrator. He's able to, proctor tests. He's able to provide some academic counseling and guidance to guys that are prospective students. And all of the players, like if you look at it, 40-ish man roster, you're going to cover most of the schools and most of the big majors. And you've got a pretty wide spread across MSHSL programs that feed it. So, absolutely invaluable resource to a prospective student looking at it. They've got their built-in core group of friends, no matter what program they choose. They can kind of start some of that networking. And then again, if they're a high school kid in the area checking out the campus, they've got a group of guys that can kind of show them the ropes and give them the ins and outs. So,
no,
but again,
right
it's gonna vary a ton at the MCLA level, especially. I've noticed, some schools again, they have just as much sway as like a fully funded athletic program. There's others that get their hand slapped if they use the school's logo. Like it's a huge spread within that.
I will say that the logo issue seems to be something across the board for every Minnesota/North Dakota MCLA club lacrosse team. But I mean, I'll put in a little 2 cents on St. Thomas just because we're talking about it. But I mean, it's kind of the deal across the board. I think for all the Minnesota club teams, like not a whole lot of sway as far as admissions go, but also like all very attainable schools for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And coaches are definitely involved and will do what they can to get you in. For anybody who's thinking about staying home and playing some club lacrosse, a great group of guys, great option. You get to be basically in your parents' backyard, play on lacrosse, knowing people you played against or played with. I'm always a big advocate for the club route. I enjoyed my 4 years of doing it. So whether it's the U, St. Thomas, or God forbid, St. John's, if you're thinking about it, talk to a coach, talk to a teammate. It's a great option.
Yeah, right on. Anything to add? Oh, go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I had something on MCLA. You talk about like maybe not having much sway with admissions and its club, but something that comes up, and this doesn't need to be a recruiting podcast, but something that comes up every year, I feel like with at least one family for us is, well, I don't want to play lacrosse if I have to pay for it. But, in-state tuition at a school might be half as much as an out-of-state tuition. But lacrosse is covered out of state, but not in state. I mean, you got to just open up an Excel spreadsheet and just do some basic math and realize like, yeah, you might be paying to play at the quote unquote club level, but it can be a really good option to stay home. And like the U, St. Thomas, St. John's, like those aforementioned programs that are pretty popular around here. I mean, they're competitive programs. Like the kids that go there can play lacrosse. I mean, you're not dealing with like guys that have never picked up a stick before or whatever. Like, it's legitimate. So, no, I'm also a proponent of it. And I think it's a great option because that's really what we have here in Minnesota.
Anything to add on your experience the last couple years with the program, or obviously really competitive, a couple of years there?
Yeah, no, they're doing some great things. That first year made a deep tourney run. Shout out Jack Currington, 36 coach. Put a plug in for him. Best goalie to ever come out of Minnesota. I'm sorry, Nick Washuta, PLL champion. It's true. But no, made a deep run that first year. Year two, made to the conference finals, lost to a tough Michigan State team, and then the boys are reloaded this year. So again, a couple transfers coming in, a couple guys kind of that got some field time last year, ready to take that next step. So we'll be excited to see them make another run to the Natty.
Right.
Working your way. Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. And one more shout out to Currington. I think he's running the Twin Cities Marathon this upcoming weekend. So good luck to him on that.
Not a big deal. I'm not running it with him, if anyone was wondering.
I was supposed to do it, but then I decided to get married and go on a honeymoon and stop running for the last 2 months. So I am staying. Well, I'm not staying home. I'm going to the Down the Alley Cup, but I will not be running 26 miles. That's for damn sure. And I'm not upset about it.
Working our way, I guess, down. The next program I know you coach in the springtime would be the Blake Bears.
Okay.
A lot of different directions I could go with this. A lot of pot stirs, at least on the staff. What's it? I guess my first question is, what's it like being with Goltz 2+ hours, 6 days a week?
That's my guy. Only person I've ever met who's as competitive, as psychotic as I am. He can match me in that. And some days he can beat me in it. We push each other to be better. I wouldn't have it any other way. I know he's oil and water to a lot of people. I know he has his fair share of detractors, but that's the guy you want in the trenches with you.
I would agree with that last statement, for sure. If you're going to the trenches, you want them in the trenches.
You want him in the trenches.
What is one, because he would I during the season for sure, like we're talking to each other all the time during the season. It's just everybody's just more amped up. And he would tell me a lot of things that he would do, and I'm just like scratching my head, like, why would you do that? What's one good story? Because I want your perspective. Like, give me one story from the Midboe perspective of Goltz. You can take it any direction you want.
I could take this a lot of directions, trying to keep this mostly SFW, right? But no, I mean, the guy cares more than pretty much anyone else does. And last year, to be fair, I mean, we'll own it, right? We took our lumps. We had a young team. It wasn't even a rebuilding year. Last year was a retooling year. Like, the molds weren't even ready to go. We were starting from square -1. So we took our lumps. But I mean, the dude got after it. We push each other every day, and I'm excited for the future. And again, there's no one else I'd ever have there. I think the biggest, I guess, Goltzism that sticks out to me. So we lost our first ever conference game, and it was close game. Joey Stopelstad, Stopolopagus, Stopolamus. Joey Stegosaurus went off. He had 11 points. It was disgusting, and we were obviously pretty beat up about it. Went out, got a couple of drinks and some food afterwards. Talked about the game, getting all frustrated. People were throwing mud in the Discord. He decided to roll around with them a little bit, and almost flipped the table. We got asked a few times to quiet down, but then he just went on a rampage. I can't remember what it was that he said. He got permabanned from the Discord on whatever that account was. I think he's since created a new account, but permabanned from the Discord. We're flying text back and forth. He's like, Jaco, screenshot everything. Screenshot everything, because I'm posting it when we're back. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had this stuff printed at the foot of his bed and he wakes up to it every morning. Like, he does not forget. He keeps the receipts. He was begging for the record of everything that was said, all the people, cheering on his demise, grittying on the grave. And when we figure it out, it's going to be really obnoxious.
There's a lot of talk of the strength and conditioning of the Blake coaching staff. Does he bring that psycho motivation into the weight room and kind of push it towards you? Is there a competition going on between you and Goltz of who's the stronger coach? And I guess you might be a little biased, but who is the stronger coach between you and Goltz?
100% brings it. We got a good pump in either before or after every practice, after kind of some of our tough losses. Those are days when we just PR'd in the gym instead. So, might have lost the game, but, went out and deadlifted 500 plus and things were all good for a little bit afterwards. So a lot of chalk talks turn into lift offs, a lot of lift offs turn into chalk talks, and we're kind of just in there. Blake, for the, the caliber of school it is, has a pretty gritty weight room. So, that was kind of the lab. I'd say he's got me on upper body. I think I got him on lower body though.
Fair enough.
Speaking of chalk offs, you are a Down the Alley Coaches Summit contributor. Thank you for that. Coming off of that year of a retooling year, what's the staff writing up for spring 2024?
So, kind of leaning into a little bit of the concepts that we still believe in. I think there were some tweaks to that based on kind of what we had available. This year was the most eye-opening year for me in terms of focused on player development as opposed to more systems. I've been really fortunate to have a lot of kids that, had played club lacrosse or came in ready to play at the varsity level my first 4-ish years coaching there. This year we had maybe 2 or 3 returning varsity players. So the focus really was on player development. So we talked a lot, and, Horn talked about it in his section. I heard it from 3 or 4 of the other DTA Summit people, this idea of using constraints in your practice planning, using that to teach and apply new skills. So definitely a renewed focus on that. Did a lot of really cool reading and research on kind of some of those modalities that you can use. And then, again, like getting kids to be well-rounded athletes, getting kids involved in other sports, getting kids to, really like hone in on doing a couple things really well. You don't have to do literally everything, like find your role and commit to it. Which was different. I mean, I'm still a huge advocate of the, good players use 2 hands, great players only need to use 1. That's not going to change. But I do think there were some applications, or I guess some ways we can better incorporate some of those box concepts or higher level offensive concepts based on kind of the talent we have and where they're at development wise. Not trying to fill that cup up too quick and put in like a college level system when kids are still kind of trying to figure out how to pass and catch with pressure on their hands. So,
Ted, did you have something?
Yeah.
You unmuted?
One thing I saw a couple days ago, I think I texted it to PMAC, but Mike McDaniel, the coach of the Miami Dolphins, former San Francisco 49ers, I feel like he reminds me a lot of you, or you remind me a lot of him. And his quote was, if the way, quote unquote, the way to do something is taught, a certain way, we're going to just design it to be the opposite. And that's how you innovate. And he's like, and then a player like went on to talk about how, and they're like, he's not kidding. Like we'll go on the field and he'll just do the exact opposite of the way that I've been taught how to do it for years. And everybody looks at him like he's crazy. And like, you're an idiot, dude. Like, this is not going to work. And then, is that the
that's the tweet that was sent to me a couple of times. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. So it's funny that, so I'm glad that this one worked out, and you're like, yeah, no, I get it. But, and then all of a sudden it kind of starts to work and people are like, holy crap, like this mad scientist. Right. And I feel like you've always really had that. And it definitely your presentation at the Coaches Summit was fascinating, and I've been around lacrosse for a long time, and I was just like sitting there like, oh my gosh, right? And I loved not even necessarily the quote unquote box concepts, like those are cool, but the idea of like permutations of things that happen, right? So like different different combinations of skills. So you teach them all these skills and like things that they can do, and like there's tools in the tool belt, and then you could do an A on the ball side with a B on the backside, or you could do a B and an A or a B and a B. So there's now all these different things, and it all came full circle. I was at a club practice this summer, and we were just doing basic stuff, right? Basic motion, and there was a player that was wide open somewhere, on the backside, and we're like, hey, why didn't you got to see that, that's where the open guy is going to be. And the player was like, oh, I'm sorry, coach. Like on my high school team, that's not where the shooter is. And it's like, it's crazy to think like, most people are being taught the game with like a set play or it's a rotating triangle. So like, this is the guy that's always going to be open. This is the way we do it. And trying to break out of that. And it, like, you can kind of look like an idiot for a while, or you might take your lumps, but then once it clicks, then it's like unguardable because it's just, it's just, you're just reading what's happening.
And we fought that a lot this spring. Shout out Evan Hylock, our head coach. We were both coordinators for the first 4 years. He ended up then taking on the head coaching role this year. And we have a fantastic relationship. But it got heated. Like there were days when, following a game, leading into a practice plan, whatever, like we're literally screaming at each other. And again, there's kind of some of that aspect of like, Golds, Jaco, me, like it means a lot to us, right? We all have very strong opinions and we like proving ourselves right. And it wasn't working. The concepts and that kind of like free motion, no set plays, but you've got these different combinations. It was taking a while for guys to figure out like how to properly run a 3-man concept. And when that guy's not always cutting to this one specific spot, how do you play off of that, right? And it got heated of like, just give them a set thing to do. And it's like, that's not how we're trying to coach. And we might lose some games now, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. Everyone makes the section tournament, right? So, I mean, I'll always be a huge advocate of that. Ted, to kind of give a glimpse of what you were talking about, or kind of explain that a little bit for anyone who maybe didn't hear that presentation. The way I like to think about it is you have like 2 or 3 different groupings within your offense. And if you teach each group 2 or 3 things, those things that they can do at the same time, depending on how you combine those different actions or motions, it's not additive, it's multiplicative. Because if I have 3 options and this group has 3 options, each one of those essentially doubles or exponentially increases the amount of other options you have. So you can teach 3 plays or actions that really becomes 18 different plays that a defense has to worry about. And I'll again be a huge advocate of that, guys, figuring out on the fly, understanding what those triggers are. If you guys, I mean, basketball, like steal as much as you can from basketball offenses. In my opinion, it goes basketball, box lacrosse, and then field lacrosse. It trickles down like that. These guys are getting paid more to do this full time, and there's more competition to be good at it, right? So basketball coaches, they talk a lot about these triggers, getting to the dominoes. Alex Smart does an amazing job of this, French national coach. That's where I kind of borrowed a lot of this stuff from. But getting guys to those triggers, people understand that differently. When they may be used to, again, rotating triangles 2-3-1, it gets a little bit tough when they have to read and react, make a decision, and then that changes the flow chart of the secondary and tertiary decisions that they have to make off of that decision. So it's tough. It's a grind, but I'll always be an advocate of that style of offense.
Yeah, and not to like beat a dead horse here, because I think you guys have both said it very well, but like, one, basketball is the reason why we have the Princeton defense, like an adjacent slide defense that comes directly from basketball. And also, like, I think it's huge for the sport, especially in, granted, my coaching experience is only in the state of Minnesota, but so I'm going to kind of beat down Minnesota a little bit here, but like a lot of the offenses I've been involved with from a coaching perspective are like we're very rigid and we're relying on players to know, like you said, that flow chart of what comes next. And if things veer off that path, you kind of have this oh crap moment of I don't know what to do. Better throw the ball 50 yards across the field and hope someone catches it. So like being able to allow players to have that free form kind of street ball mentality and like becoming an offensive player, not a midi or an attackman who can only dodge from a certain spot and only go one direction is so much more beneficial for the entire offense and for that team. And then like taking that a step further and saying, hey, LSM, you're running the ball up, stay on for a little bit, set a pick, roll off, get a shot, like become a free flowing lacrosse player is huge. And I think we're getting towards that stage in Minnesota where like more offenses will start to rely on that because we now have players that are playing year round to make up an entire starting line or to make up two lines of starting middies. And we can like progress beyond the, okay, now we've established our three offenses and we know our rotations, we know who's going to dodge and who likes to do this. But like being able to be a lacrosse player is so much more important. And like, I think if you are a young player listening, not to stand up on a soapbox, but like go watch professional lacrosse, go watch some college lacrosse, like Tufts 2014. Those guys just like had 4 rules that they had to abide by. Like, don't stand on the crease, don't hold on to the ball. And like, that's all I remember. I didn't play offense. So, don't get mad at me for not knowing the whole thing. But like, again, just like having that street ball mentality, because that's what lacrosse really is. It's so much more similar to basketball than I think people realize. And that like you just have a space to operate in, go make a play and be a smart-minded offensive guy and make something happen. And I think it's really great that you guys are able to take kind of that step back moment of like, okay, we're in this for the long run. Let's coach these guys up and make them intelligent players. And yeah, we're going to take some lumps here in the next last season or whatever it may be like, but it's going to pay dividends once those guys are seniors and they know every spot on the field and feel comfortable no matter where they're going or what they see. I think that's awesome. You guys are doing that.
One other like funny offensive thing, and I don't know if I heard this from you, Nick, or if I heard it somewhere else, was just the idea of not having a crease guy anymore. And like that pains me because I played crease attack. So like I'm just like, oh, I'm out of a job, right? But I think most schemes are like, okay, this is your crease guy, or someone is always occupying the crease area because like that's the best shot, the layup. And then it's like, well, what do defenses do every single day of practice? They practice sliding from the crease. And then all of a sudden you don't have a crease guy and you're open. Okay, there's 7 or 8 teams in the state that are extremely well coached defensively and can go, okay, I can figure out where we're going to send the help from. But you'd be surprised how just eliminating a crease guy and putting him behind the net or opening up into a circle, which is like considered super basic, all of a sudden just works because you're just doing it not the way that it's being taught. You're just doing it completely the opposite, right?
Yeah, and that's the McDaniel mentality, right? Of like, let's try to innovate, let's try to do something a little bit different. But I mean, again, like a big key for me was that inherently isn't necessarily a strength or the goal. It's not innovating to innovate and like you're like, oh God, I'm such a good coach. But like there's a reason to do it. And so actually after the season, we had a really interesting meeting with our athletic director where we were all in there and like he knew we were all devastated and we were like, dude, fire all of us. Like we sucked, we failed. And he was like, you guys didn't. And the difference though, and the way he explained this was so cool. Like he was like, you are coaching this team as like a state champion team. Realistically, that was not what this year was, right? But where you guys did kind of fail or where there's that opportunity was what's the step we can take back to get them to that next one? And he used the analogy of like filling the cup. And he was saying you can't try to fill that top quadrant, right? Until there's something underneath it. And I love this analogy he used. I stole it immediately. Ted, you'll probably be the only one that like knows this because I needed him to explain this to me. Was it NBA Jam? What game had the special C button move? You know what I'm talking about? you get like a special move. It was like either NBA Jam or NFL, whatever, like one of the first Madden, something.
Yeah, and I want to say it might have been like an early or a late 90s NHL game.
And you charge up your special move, and everyone's special move is a little bit different. You
Yeah.
got to figure out what it is. And when that person is stuck, you just yell C button, and they can do whatever that thing is. And he was like, you guys need to do a better job of like identifying what that thing is for these players. That way they have something they're comfortable with, they can fall back on when this is not working. And he was saying he coaches his daughter's basketball team, and they were just getting killed by this. They had a big girl on the other team. They're throwing her the ball, whatever. But their players were trying to run this system, and like they had a speed matchup, and he had to be like, just run by this girl, like C button, C button, C button. And I loved that analogy of, again, like good coaching is not innovating for the sake of innovation. It's not coming up with this cool magic play that's always going to get somebody open. It's like, how do you develop the skills and put the players in a position where they can be comfortable to make the right reads?
Yeah, for sure. Is Nick Rathman still the AD there?
Yeah, it was Rathman. Yeah,
beauty, great.
absolute beauty.
No, I like that. I think you're absolutely right. I know I'm guilty of it, of being like, I want to come up with something new, because if it works, I think there's that ego boost, right? To say like, oh, I innovated, and it's this brand new thing, and it's 99.9% of the time doing less, taking something away. Like they say, great design is being able to take something away, right? And like I think you're absolutely right. It's give them something to fall back on, take something away so that you can build more later.
Right.
And no, I think that's super cool. And at the end of the day, the coach can't go out there and play. You can only do so much with the players that you have and where they are at, and eventually those young players that you had this year will eventually be older players that have had you guys coaching them for 3 years, and things will be different. And I think a lot of coaches that listen to this can relate. Maybe they don't have 100 kids trying out for lacrosse every spring. Maybe they only have 30 or 40 kids, and it's like, we take our lumps, but eventually that one core group is going to be your group, and you're going to be able to have that relationship with them.
100%. And Ted, I'm glad, like, the do less thing, right? That's why, I've coached with 3 or 4 different club teams here, a couple of high school programs, ton of youth programs, college level, whatever. I think the most fun I've ever had, like outside of coaching my own kid, was players box league. Just like giving them a basic system, teaching some new skills, watching kids try something new for the first time in that controlled environment. And I thought the coolest thing, I think it was year 1, we had field practice that afternoon. So guys would play box in the morning. They'd be in an environment where like it was cool to try that new weird, I'm going to try a one-handed flip pass. I'm going to shoot this behind my legs. I'm going to take a behind the back shot, whatever it is. They're trying a new skill, maybe failing at it the first time they try it. Someone else tries it, succeeds, whatever. They're doing it in the hallway at First Athlete till they get yelled at by the staff. And then we go out to a field practice and they break it out in 6-on-6. Like, it was the most fun, and in my opinion, some of the most rewarding coaching moments I've had because of that free play model.
Yeah, and as coaches, our only job was to basically make it WWE and just create storylines and fake drama around the league to make them excited about being there. And then when they're excited about actually just showing up and playing lacrosse, because like Midboe and Ted have been going at it on Twitter and they think it's like real drama, right? Now they're going to try harder because there's skin in the game, and like they're like those are some intense games for quote unquote like games that didn't matter. But when you get to win a real belt, a wrestling belt, that's sometimes that's all it takes.
I want to change the subject just a little bit regarding Blake. Clearly, you guys are meeting with the AD. I think last year, I don't know if I was talking to you about it or to Currington, but before the St. Thomas game, there were some conversations regarding the uniform, and I think someone had said brown had been a tertiary color or a color for the Blake school at one point in time. When are we going to throw in some brown and green into the Blake lacrosse jerseys? Because as a guy who's on the back end of a camera for lacrosse now, like I love seeing new innovative jerseys come out. I don't think anybody's got brown thrown into the color schemes yet. Is that something you could maybe advocate for and maybe get like an alternate jersey going or just something different?
We're workshopping it. We did brown jerseys 2 springs ago for senior night. We did brown practice pennies this year and some brown like accessories and stuff. So we're kind of fading it in. We also have Tony Boyer on staff, who, like, I will say this with my whole chest here. Tony and I are the best 2 like sports logo branding people in America. Look it up. The record speaks for itself. The guy's incredible. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing with 36, sick. Some of the stuff
Yeah,
that we've
and
done. Oh, go ahead.
no, I would agree because he designed the Sundogs logo for PBL, and then the PLL stole it the next year.
Dude, I don't even know what you call that. Brewery stole the Sundogs logo. I'm drinking Sundog purple lemonade right now.
So now 2 companies have, like, I guess PL didn't steal the Sundogs, but they just decided to call it Water Dogs a couple years later. So PBL making huge. So I agree with you.
And did he not design this podcast logo?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He was on the podcast. He was one of our first guests.
Yes, he was.
So big shout out Tony Boyer.
Yeah, and I remember
some stuff.
I was like, dude, like, are you like, how can we like put you on, man? Like, you're a sick designer. Like, he's like, I don't know, I don't really want to do design. And I'm like, you're unbelievable at it. And that's like, fair enough. Like, you don't always want to do the things you're great at. But I was like, all right, I guess not. But like, if you do need some design work done, this is your guy.
He's the guy. So we got the 2 of us. So we're always cooking up ideas. The players actually this year, they weren't big into the brown for whatever reason. The senior class the year before, huge on the brown.
So are we talking like diarrhea brown, like shit brown, or are we talking
like brown, like the Brown Bears brown?
Yeah, brown, like
okay.
like Ivy League brown.
Okay,
like Ivy League brown. Yeah.
Keep it high.
They weren't as into it as the 22 class was. So we'll see. But again, we've got a lot of things cooking up. We're always sharing files back and forth. So
fair enough. So I mean, maybe this is a smooth transition because the jersey designs that you guys just came out with for the King of the Hill box league you've got going are some of the best I have frankly seen. The Snelling Salts, I think, is the best team name and jersey design I have ever seen in my life. So I mean, we can start with the jersey designs for the league, but let's dive into maybe the King of the Hill a little bit. And I mean, give us what's the best jersey that you've got, I guess, in your opinion. We'll start out with that.
JP, that was a segue and a half. This is why you guys are the most listened to Minnesota high school lacrosse podcast. No, so King of the Hill League. So last time we talked, and since, I think this has grown even more. My big alley has been creating opportunities to continue to play lacrosse after high school, after college. I've said this before, so if anyone's listened to anything I've put out before, they've heard me say it. I think it's really weird that you spend your whole life with something being such a huge part of your identity, such a huge skill acquisition, like in terms of life skills, and such a big part of like your personality, your hopes, dreams, cares, whatever. And that shuts off when you're 18. And if you're really good at it and really lucky, it shuts off when you're 22, except for, the top 1% of the 1%. So my big alley or my big lane is creating opportunities for people to still play competitive lacrosse after high school. One of the ways we're doing that is through this King of the Hill League. We're playing model, a lot of it actually comes out of some of the conversations, Ted, that we had, like, as we were coming up with some of the PBL stuff of like, oh, I'd be sick if we did PBL after dark and it was a men's league and the winners got they got their bar tab paid at a brewery and they got a Stein with the championship logo on it. And like, just, some of the stuff we were throwing back, like, wouldn't it be cool if, I've really focused on like turning those wouldn't it be cool ifs into reality. So MN Box Leagues is the Instagram. We've got 5 teams this year. We had 4 teams last year. We got the Snelling Salts, the Ghosts, the Spoons. We've got the Brewery Dogs, and we've got the Dinkies. All of them, like the iconography, the imagery is all around, Minneapolis, Twin Cities, sights, sounds, vibe. And it's been a ton of fun to put together. Just like PBL, the whole thing, create some of those drama points, create some of the storylines, pump the individual stats, pump the media. JP did a fantastic job with some highlights and some pictures last year. So JP, thank you for that. We definitely want to have you back. Two new teams this year. We've got the Snelling Salts and the Ghost. The Ghost jersey is kind of this like day glow green. It's been probably the most popular. I got to be on the Snelling Salts. Cannot play without ripping a big inhale of some ammonia. So I'll be on that squad. But yeah, I think it's fun. There's a brand for everyone. I'm working on making like a little BuzzFeed quiz, kind of sorting new players of like what's your player type, what's your archetype, what team should you be on. So that'll be kind of fun. But again, just finding ways to put some skin in the game when really this is an evening kind of house league, right? But finding those ways to enhance it and bring in as much of the competition has been a ton of fun to do. So we're really excited for year 2.
I love how your driving goal with all this is to give people an opportunity to play lacrosse after their like life of dedicating every waking hour seemingly to that sport. So I think that's really awesome that you're giving people an avenue to do that. What's been like the main feedback from players that played in it last year are coming into it this year, and like what is the reason why they're coming back to keep doing it? Is it to have that outlet again? Is it just to knock some knuckles with somebody? Like what are you hearing from the guys who are playing in the league?
I think my favorite thing about it is everyone's reason has been very different. So like we saw with PBL, some people really bought into the brands and they were like, I'm a dog and the dogs are my team, right? These are my guys. I'm a spoon. The spoons are my boys. Some people did it as just they wanted to burn some calories after work. Some people did it because maybe they had aspirations of, getting into a practice squad or making a run somewhere to play high level lacrosse. We had a lot of guys that, that Dinky's team is primarily Gophers players. So a great supplement to their fall ball. I think everyone has a reason why they want to keep doing this, even after, when they wake up a little bit more sore and those bruises last a little bit longer and the soft tissue injuries start piling up. But I think that's been the coolest thing about it is like everyone's reason is their reason and it means something to them. And it doesn't matter like, you're playing NCAA lacrosse, you're playing high school lacrosse, you're playing rec lacrosse, whatever it is, like it means as much as you want it to mean to you. And so finding ways to kind of stimulate a little bit of that, I think has been pretty cool.
Do you guys have coaches for each team? Is it a player coach? Someone kind of just steps into the role every game? What's that like?
Yeah, someone just kind of steps in. So a lot of probably the majority of the guys playing are all guys who do play on the Wheat Kings. We could talk about that too. I mean, that program has grown by leaps and bounds. We've become really competitive nationally. So it's been really cool to see that development. So a lot of those guys kind of take on some of the like player coach, captain duties. We've had pretty good spread of our players. Last year, Goltz was on the Dogs. I was on the Spoons. We had a couple of good guys on the Rapids and on the Dinkies, and so it was kind of spread out. And everyone still has pride. Everyone still has egos. So every week when I post the rankings and the players of the week and the stat update, people wanted to see their name and the name of their team up on that. So again, it's been the most fun thing is like finding ways to give people that nudge or give people that push to keep coming back.
Yeah. And well, I think my favorite part of it is like, and you guys kind of opened the conversation up to you guys about it, but like we've all had those issues of trying to find a summer field team to play for in men's league. And it's always like, okay, I'll either got to find 20 guys that are going to sign up and commit to Wednesday nights. And we're going to have to like get our jerseys, get our team name, figure out positions, all this other kind of stuff. And hopefully we can get a team to last for the 6-7 weeks that we're playing in the summer, or I got to be the outsider and join some random team as a free agent and hope I can play and not really have like the league structure that you're looking for. Cause like you said, it doesn't need to be like a grand MLL replica of, serious lacrosse, but like you also want to show up and like get something out of what you're doing if you're going to devote your time to it. And I think it's cool that like you are providing an avenue for somebody who wants to just sign up for a team. They've got the link right there to just say, I want to be on this team or that team if there's a spot available. And I know guys are going to show up. They're going to provide me the jerseys, the field times, the refs, all that kind of stuff. So like, this may start a different conversation. I'm more of a field guy than a box guy myself. So I would hope that, maybe this can translate out into a field game, or somebody can start doing a field league, in parallel with this, because I think it'd be awesome to get back on the field again. I've been itching to play, but Lord knows trying to find a men's league team is, seemingly impossible these days. But I don't know if you guys run into that situation trying to play field summer lacrosse, or I don't know, what's your experience been with that?
I mean, I think for me, I do need to get it. Like, it's not altruism. Like, I'm not. I play in all the leagues. I play on all the teams. I'm doing this because I still want to keep doing it. And to your point, JP, it's tough to find like those like-minded individuals and an opportunity to do that. So I know Brian Wilson is doing some cool stuff on the east side. I think he's getting some sixes stuff organized in like October, November timeframe. So definitely worth checking out. But I totally agree, and we've been very intentional with that. Of like, we kind of not like fully mask who's playing with what team or whatever, but it's like we want it to be a mix of guys from all the different men's teams, all the different colleges, all different levels. And it's like pick the brand that resonates with you, and you'll meet a group of 15 guys that feel the same way.
One of the things, just saying that right when I graduated from college for a couple of years there, I was doing men's league hockey, and obviously very similar model, right? You sign up, you play in a team. And that was one of my favorite things about it. Like, obviously all the competitive stuff was fun, but it's like you're in the locker room with like a group of 15, 16 new guys, networking. There's like a plumber, an architect, a couple guys that work corporate, and a couple business owners and a accountant. And it's like we're all just playing hockey together, and it's like people that you can, do business with in the future. And it's I think that's really important too for like post, especially that 22 to 20 to 30, probably that age group. Like, network is always important, but like when you're early on in your career, like not just knowing the people that you sit next to at work or in your industry, like you get to know other people in other areas. I think that's a super cool piece of playing sports, but lacrosse after college, into your adult life.
Well, and we're all like post our glory days of playing lacrosse. And I think when we think back on our college or our high school teams, like, sure, you remember those overtime game winners, or, those blowouts with your rival or whatever it may be. But like the thing we all gravitate towards the most when it comes to like story time about your former teams is the guys you played with and like hung out on the bus or the locker room with. And that's the really cool part about being able to play lacrosse post college or in your adult life. Like, you get to find, like you said, those like-minded individuals that also are weirdly obsessed with some niche hobby that no one at work understands why you're going out to beat each other up with a bunch of sticks and throw a ball in the net. Because when you put it like that, it doesn't make any sense. But when you get to hang out with a bunch of guys that have that same mentality and that same passion for your sport, like, it brings you back to the thing that like you loved doing growing up, and the thing that made you go stand out in the alley till it got dark and play wall ball all night, or find a net and go shoot. Like, it's awesome to be able to tap back into that, like that feeling and that mentality of, one, competition, and two, just like camaraderie and knowing people around you that also really love your weird hobby. And you don't have to find somebody at work that like watch the PLL on ESPN2 for 30 minutes and try to tell them all about like the new shot clock rules, or debate with them about why the faceoff should be banned if we want to get into that. But
JP's
it's cool
cooking right
that
now.
it's cool that you guys provide that alley for people. And I really like that you guys are doing that. So
Appreciate hearing that, man. I'm going in.
Well, do you have another alley that I know that you kind of said that was your alley, but I didn't ask you. So do you have another alley that you'd like to speak on, or was that your alley?
That's my alley, and I mean, honestly, until like my lights shut down and fall off, that's probably going to be my alley. Because again, I do agree. Like, there is a community benefit, the networking, the culture. Like, these are your neighbors, your best friends, whatever it is, massive. But like, I just want to keep playing too. So I'll always scrap and claw for ways to do that. The only other thing I guess would be like it's been really cool to see as these things have matured and developed, how much bigger that tent has gotten. So not just in terms of numbers, but like the rationale behind why. Again, guys who just don't want to hang it up, guys who want to burn some calories, guys that maybe move to the cities and they don't know anybody, and this is their way to kind of grow a professional network, or guys even high school, young college kids that legitimately have aspirations and could potentially play at the next level. There's opportunities that throughout that. I'm not the only one doing it. I guess I'm just the loudest about it, at least here. So yeah, I mean that community is huge. That's everything. Like JP said, that's what you remember. Not I couldn't tell you the score of any high school or college game I played in. I can remember specific plays, specific moments, but definitely remember the bus rides and the playing cards in the hotel room and all the stuff leading up to that. So creating more of those moments is always going to be huge for me.
How does somebody sign up for this league? Is there a specific website or something that they do to join?
Yeah, so it's gonna be posted on at MN Box Leagues. There's also all the jerseys on there. We've been doing like priority registration up until this podcast goes live. The actual public sign up will go out this weekend. The way we did it was based on your order of finish in last year's King of the Hill, you got basically some advanced days to sign up. So that way those people who finish first could choose to run it back with their guys, or they could jump ship to greener pastures. So we just finished the final round of kind of that priority like pre-sale registration. We're about half full on the league, and then the public link is going to go up this weekend. So hope to definitely see some new faces and again keep growing that tent.
Love it.
Go ahead, PMEC.
No, I was. Do you have something?
Well, I was promised last week we were talking about previewing this week's episode. I was promised a controversial hot take, and I kind of alluded to one. But do you have?
I asked for a new one.
Take?
I asked for a new one,
and I was told there could be a new one. We all, if you know Midboe, you know the standard one. We'll call it.
No, I don't want the standard one. I'm sick of that one. I want a new one.
So what do you have something to bring to the table tonight and start some controversy and start something up in the Discord maybe tomorrow morning?
Oh, no, I mean, I've been beating the Fogo drum for a while. I'll keep doing that. No place in the sport. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's a waste of time. No one wants to see people play spinny circle. I'm, I guess, a little bit less like my eyes have been kind of open to the two-handedness because I can see how that maybe helps, but I still think bad players can't use either hand. Okay players can only use one hand. Good players can use both hands. Great players don't need to. That sequence of handedness, I think that's probably another hot take and a hill I'm willing to die on. Pun fully intended. I don't think you need two hands to be good at lacrosse.
Is that stemming from your experience in box lacrosse, or did you have that mindset before you even got into the world of box lacrosse like you're in now?
Less about that and more about just like numbers and stats. So I've seen the study. I can't remember who put the study together, but somebody tracked all the shots in Division I, and at the time it was MLL, and found that stick to the outside shots are saved at more than 5% compared to stick to the inside shots. And I think it was even like much more than that, like closer to 9-10%. When I tell the story to kids, it's 25%. 69% of stats are made up on spot, right? But looking at the numbers, a stick to the outside shot, like I don't understand why coaches are so insistent on having amazing talent, having them run a system where they're trying to create a low percentage shot, where the objective of whatever this offensive motion was to dodge down the alley and shoot with your stick to the outside. That does not make sense. It goes in sometimes, and I think you need to have it in your bag, or it's helpful to have it in your bag, I guess. But I think it's stupid when coaches develop offense around creating low percentage shots.
Is this more about the system, so-called coaches that you're referring to running, or is that more about using multiple hands? I feel like you went on two different takes, which I'm not saying I agree or disagree with either take. I'm just saying it seemed like you just went on two different takes.
If your system, that your rigid system is designed to get you a stick to the inside shot from 6 to 8 yards, run your rigid system and tell every parent how great of a coach you are. Cool. But if your system is designed to create a low percentage shot where you're running away from the goal, actively taking your angle away with every step, it's a dumb system. Ted's nodding his head.
I like the take. I'm of the mindset of like, I hate when coaches say strictly shoot overhand, because if you can
That's another
get
awful
hands
take.
free
Yeah.
and shoot low to high
Shoot
or
it.
sidearm, shoot the ball. So I get where you're coming from. And like, I wasn't on the field playing these kids. I was certainly on the sidelines or in the bleachers, but like Canadian high schools would come down and play my high school quite often. And there's a lot of box influence to that, or just like players learning how to play with one hand and get really good at one hand. And like the best kids on the field were only cradling in their right hand only or in their left hand only. And by God, they were still scoring from every angle you could think of. So like, I definitely think there's some merit to what you're saying. And I don't think you're saying like only keep your stick in your strong hand and that's all you should be doing. But like, yeah, if you're really, really good, you don't need to try to make some space happen and get to your left to get whatever kind of crazy angle shot you're trying to get. Just shoot the ball out, to shoot it and put it in the back of the net. So I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm agreeing with it. So
I got one more. This is kind of a mini hot take. I don't think this is necessarily divisive, but I do think this is a misconception. I think that we need to figure out a way to get shots on goalies in practice in a safe way and more consistently, because I think that is the difference between a good goal scorer and just someone who can shoot the ball well. I said this in the DTA Summit. Ted and I have talked about this over beers plenty of times. I think if you put a target in the corner, you asked a good American Indigenous player and a good Canadian or Indigenous player to shoot at it, and a good American player, I think the American player probably hits the target more. But I think if you put a goalie in the net and you had them take 10 shots, that box player or that, Canadian Indigenous style scores more goals, because they'll mix in the hesitations, a different hand path, the different swing angle, the hiding their shoulders, all those little extra nuances that you can only get when you consistently shoot on goalies. I think it's kind of dumb that there's not a way to do that safely. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a padded morph suit or something. But in my opinion, that is why like box players make better goal scorers. It has nothing to do with how well they shoot the ball or how accurately they shoot the ball. It has more to do with deception.
Well, one thing I was like, I don't know who one of you guys we've brought this take up, and this, for me, this kind of started on idiotic hot take, like controversial, but I've definitely moved more towards buying into it, was the Sixes model of no backing up of shots, where, offense takes a shot. It doesn't matter if you're closest to it. It's a turnover, just like in every other sport.
In basketball, do you get rewarded for airballing? No, it's stupid.
No. And so, and I was thinking, and I'm like, well, I don't know. We're just messing with the rules to mess with it. But I think just like playing on goalies in practice more, I think that would actually help with this whole shooting and scoring situation that we're in, where it's like, like you get rewarded for missing, essentially, and it's, for years it's been score or miss, right? Or like, shoot to miss, miss inside the pipe. And like, obviously great players can hit the corners and put them off the pipe and in and whatever. But like, it's not always the highest percentage shot when like, a good bouncer on goal has more percentage to go in, or, kind of an off speed, maybe a little spin on the ball, like different tricks that you can do without just like ripping it as hard as you can and being like, well, if I miss, I'm good. Well, if there's no runouts, I think players would think more and be trained more to be more deceptive and try to beat a goalie. Like that's the goal, not just rip it to rip it.
Well, and I think what is interesting too, like and I'm a big lacrosse slow-mo highlights guy on Instagram, but like when you see these college goals going in, like, yeah, you're going to get your ones that are stinging the corner and ringing the pipe and whatever, and they look sweet. But like a lot of these shots are getting the goalie to like be deceived and kind of move out of the space where you're putting it in. Like they're just kind of going in a 2x2 area on the net and they're not hitting that top corner. They're, like you said, deceiving the goalie, making him move and trying to to hide where the ball is coming from and being a more creative shooter rather than, like you said, Ted, trying to shoot it 99 to the top corner and get the whole crowd going nuts because you rang one off the pipe. Like, a goal is a goal, and being a more, like I said, creative shooter is so much more effective. And I also think the getting rid of the back up the shot, get the ball back rule is one I agree with, to be honest, because one, like you said, a air ball in basketball, you're not getting the ball back, but also like it's the most confusing rule in the world if you are a non-lacrosse fan trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And how many times have we seen a like controversial or missed call or questionable call on the end line because no one knows, oh, is it closest to the sideline, closest to the ball? Is it when it goes out, or is it when you guys get to the
And how many
line? Like, what
players
is
and
it?
coaches explain the rule incorrectly to people?
Yeah.
Like the amount of conversations I've overheard as a dad on the sideline of like, that is not how that works at all, dude. Like, I think lacrosse would be better served. Like, if they took any rule and they were like, if this was hard to explain to someone watching lacrosse for the first time, throw it out of the rule book. It's a stupid rule.
Well, and like it kind of cost the Water Dogs the game on Sunday because there was like, I don't know who was on the end line, but wasn't really sure when the ball was going out, and some Archers player made a great play and it was a great call, but dove in front of them and got there right before the ball went out of bounds. But like, had the Water Dogs maybe been a little bit more conservative with their shot selection and thought, okay, we can't just like miss it to set up a dodge from X and we'll live to fight another day, like it might change that game. I'm not saying it goes one way or the other, but like it's also kind of silly that like this obscure rule is kind of what the entire PLL season, the supposed pinnacle of lacrosse today, comes down to, because even a professional player wasn't even really sure what was going on, and like he should have been boxing out more, but like it's a weird rule to try to even conceive in your own head as a, I'm sure he's a 20-year vet in the sport. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of one of those rules that like is gimmicky and kind of fun, but like if lacrosse is going to make that step into a like namestay sport in the national attention, like get rid of those like weird obscure rules. I will say I love the face off, so I'm not going to switch my tune on that one, but I think the backup the shot one might be one we reconsider.
And PMAC is our resident like defensive guy here, and he probably would like that too. To like defense gets on somebody's hands, forces an errant shot, maybe pressures them a little bit, makes them shoot a little faster than they wanted to. They miss the net. It's defense's ball.
No, I would love that. I think the shot clock was another good thing for defenses. If you played, 60, 80, 90 seconds of good defense, like you should be rewarded for that. So I'm all for rewarding good defense and bad offense.
We also need the shot clock in high school, but we can
Need the
we can
shot
have that
clock in high
conversation
school.
the other
I would
day.
love that,
And
but yeah.
re-lengthen the sub boxes. Make the sub boxes long again.
That was
Yeah.
the stupidest rule change of 2023. That was so stupid.
The loading
Oh,
zone.
God, that was safety.
We're at Farmington this year. We're gonna sell sponsorships to brand the loading zone. It's the BI Worldwide loading zone.
There you
Here, right?
The Warner Stallion loading zone.
Yeah, there you go. I think JP, did you get enough hot controversial fix in our discussion?
I'm good for now. I'm not in the Discord anymore, but if I've started some conversations, let me know, because I hope we did.
Yeah.
Well, Midboe, thanks for coming down the alley. If there's any listeners out there that are, looking to play, some men's league lacrosse or above youth lacrosse, not some non-youth lacrosse. If you're still in the game, you want to play in the game, you want to stay in the game, reach out to Midboe. If you have any questions.
18 plus, unless you're Gus Bell.
18 plus, unless you're Gus Bell. Okay, so if you're 18 plus and you're in the state of Minnesota and you want to play some lacrosse,
MN Box Leagues at MN Box Leagues, and you can get all signed up to play some after hours lacrosse.
Midboe, thanks for coming down the alley. Good luck next spring with the Blake Bears, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks again, fellas. Always a pleasure. Talk soon.
And thank you to Coach Midboe for coming down the alley. JP, do we lose Ted?
Yeah,
JP, it looks like we lost Ted.
Did you bounce Ted or
I didn't bounce Ted.
because Midboe's still
Midboe's logging off. Midboe's logging off here. I guess we lost Ted.
Ted doesn't want to recap. That's fine. That's fine.
We didn't want to. I guess we didn't want to. Guess we didn't want to recap. That's fine. I guess you and me. I had at least one more thing to talk about, and I actually kind of wanted to talk to Ted about it because I know he's a big coffee guy. But Crease Crank coffee.
Ooh.
It smells absolutely delicious. Oh, Ted just texted us. Tell him to get back on. I want to tell Ted about this Crease Crank coffee.
I'll get him back in, but I love the name just to start. I mean, let's prep the people with, I guess, some background. What is this? Where'd it come from? And then we can talk more about it with Ted.
So, we've got this new partnership with Second Slide. They run our team stores. Ted's coming in. So we'll fill. I want to fill him in too. I don't want to double up here. Ted jumping off early. I guess we don't want to recap anything. I had at least one thing to talk about, Ted.
Hey, it's the off season. We're not in section preview full swing mode like we are in the spring. So a
lot of times it's just that thing's ending before anybody has a chance to get a word in. So I just tried to get ahead of it and leave the meeting.
No, it's okay. So, Ted, I know you're a big coffee guy. You're one of the people I go to with if I have any coffee questions. And I've got a bag of Crease Crank coffee here. Had my first cup of Crease Crank coffee. I got the breakfast blend. It's off of the Team 36 store, and it was pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie. It smells absolutely delicious.
Does it say what the origins like where does that blend come from? Does it have like regions like Colombia or Ethiopia, Argentina, wherever? Does it say?
It says it's distributed out of California, but I don't think it's probably produced there.
No, like beans will like a blend. A breakfast blend will have beans from different regions of the world. But no, that's a breakfast blend is always solid. I was wondering about that. I saw that in the team store. Is that owned by some lacrosse person that started a coffee company, or like what's the scoop on that?
So I guess I don't know the full story. It's a partnership with our team store, team36.secondslide.io. It'll be in the show notes. There's 5 different blends. I don't know what type of partnership exactly there is. But they do give a portion of the proceeds to they kind of give it away to help grow the sport of lacrosse, which is cool. So Crease Crank coffee, pretty good. My first cup of Joe was this morning. It's a good cup of Joe. And I don't know. That's all I had. That's all I had for about coffee, but it's a good cup of Joe.
Yeah, I do love coffee. I did see that in the team store. It's good review, and they're not paying us to say that.
No.
Just free review. I don't think I have anything since the last episode. I know we're again kind of in the slow-ish time of high school lacrosse. I do have a couple things website related.
Okay, website related.
On the
Hit us.
.com. So this probably won't be a huge factor to our audience, but on our website, I went in today, and then moving on in the future, every episode will be a blog, like a separate blog post. So you'll be able to kind of go in and like see each episode as like a page, and we're going to hopefully be able to update show notes and kind of do a little bit more like a breakdown of what each episode is. And you can kind of go in and then see all the past episodes. Not that it was that hard to do on Apple Podcasts or whatever, but hopefully that helps with a little bit more organization of each episode and gives every guest an episode of kind of its own page and branding. So that was one thing. And
Hey,
then
one thing on that, and not to shred you live on the podcast, but that's why we do it. Every blog post and kind of like the preview, it says in this episode, we're going to talk to the Chanhassen coach. Awesome interview with her. She was a beauty. And then I click on it and it's not, it's obviously, it talks about, whatever that is. So that could be an edit. That could be some homework for us to figure out.
yeah, I will say I had to do about 40 of those today. So there could have been some errors on the link. So that was going to be the next task, was combing through to make sure that that each one was like correct. But moving forward, that I had to backlog a bunch of stuff, but moving forward, each one, but it nonetheless, that was one very minute thing. Again, it probably doesn't really matter to our listeners, but for some people, they may find that more useful, looking at the content. The other thing, which I think will be more interesting to our listeners, is I received today from the Mrs. PMAC source a way too early top 10, the start of a top 10 preseason breakdown. So kind of a welcome back blog post, as along with their first kind of their number one team heading in, or their number 10. I can't remember if they started at 1 or 10, but they're going to go each week and kind of give us their preseason top 10. So that content should be coming up as well. Kind of, I guess, kicked my butt into gear to have to maybe start something on the boys' side.
I have been working a little bit on the website, kind of re-kicked some PMAX rants. I've had a couple of blogs, and then I've started back up in the coaches corner for those who subscribe. Like, you have to subscribe to that corner, correct?
Yes, correct.
So I've been kind of restarting with some drills. I've been working the Lacrosse Lab app, getting ready for a big 2024 season. Thinking, researching. So the drills, plays, and whatnot, I'm starting to pick up some of the content, and build it up here for the 2024 season.
That's good. Yeah, I know you've been grinding on that too. So lot of exciting things happening with Down the Alley. Again, trying to just push out as much as we can to try to cover the sport. It is that down period, but I'm already getting fired up for the spring season again. I feel like I've had enough of a break, and I'm ready to get back into it. And that's a fun time of year.
Yeah, it's weird that we've reached the point of like no lacrosse right now. Like, PLL's done, college has been done, high school obviously, the club season is done. So like now we're kind of in that in between, but we do have some lacrosse getting played Sunday morning, afternoon. The Down the Alley Wagon Cup is what we're calling it, or
Fall Classic.
Classic.
It was the Wagon Cup last year, but we I think this year we're just keeping it right down the middle, the Fall Classic. But a little fall ball action this upcoming Sunday.
Yeah, we'll get some photos, some content up on the site, some more Instagram videos for all you social media lovers. But be nice to be back on a sideline, seeing some lacrosse getting played. I guess quick update. I guess my love of the Archers throwback logo at the beginning of the year was a great call. Should have thrown a future down on the Archers to win it all this year. I even said at one point I think the Archers were primed to win it, but hindsight 2020. And then also last week we were talking about some fall ball games. I know Navy, their men's team, just announced everybody come and play at the Naval Academy on October 21st, I think. But get on the Twitters, maybe get some updates. Maybe we'll see some highlights, I'm sure. Go watch some film if you're itching for some lacrosse. It's all on YouTube, I promise. But yeah, kind of we're in the spooky season, so to speak, of no lacrosse.
Yeah, we got basically a month of fall ball left for 36, big down the alley event this weekend. And then we're going to really dive into the coaches summit stuff and really try to put some of that together. We're in discussions on a few other things. So it's exciting. Hopefully things come together for us, and really excited for the tournament this weekend, or kind of more of a play day. And then putting together that summit. Want to come back bigger, badder, and than ever. So, double down on year 2.
Any guests we want to preview in the coming weeks? Any interviews coming up?
Next week's open. I don't think we have I would love to get a gal or a gal coach, a girls coach, on. So if you have any ideas, any recs, shout them out. I'd like to, I've had a couple weeks now of boys, on the boys side of things. I'd like to get back over to the girls for a week or two. If that's possible. But no, next weekend is wide open. So if somebody's interested, our schedule is open.
All right.
So yeah, no teasers. Thanks for coming down the alley. Ted, thanks for coming back down the alley. Just wanted to show you the coffee.
Yeah.
Promote that. It's on the store. People want to try new coffee. It was a good cup of Joe this morning. So that's all I got. And we'll be back next week.